full but not sleepy after this scrumptious lunch. We now are going to have panel 2, for which I invite our speakers for today, S.P. Kamath, Director, Regenerative Agriculture, Bayer; Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee, Supply Chain and Sustainability Leader, IBM; Professor Subramaniam, Greenco School of Sustainability, IIT Hyderabad; Utsav Dikshit, Packaging Sustainability Leader, Alpala; Mr. K. Srinivas, Partner, Solar Bull; and the session will be moderated by Professor Debaraj Bhattacharya, IIT Hyderabad. Dr. Bhattacharya is a PhD in Civil Engineering from University of New Brunswick, Canada, and an MTech from IIT Roorkee. Professor Bhattacharya has been associated with many projects related to wastewater treatment, solid waste management, and biofuel, and has several research publications in journals of repute under his wing. Professor Bhattacharya is actively contributing towards realizing the goal of sustainable development. Over to you, sir.
So thank you for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. So as you all know that we have gathered here to address as one of the pressing challenges of our time, and that is attaining net zero emission. Right, so net zero emission is not a buzzword, rather it is a lifeline to our future generation. As Dr. Bhattacharya in the morning was saying that it is all about the balance, that if you have a scale, then on one side you have your emissions, and on the other side, the efforts that you have taken actually to balance it. So earlier what we have done, the emission part was like this, so the balance tilted like this. Now we are trying to do something so that again it goes back to this, and then we get the achieve our ultimate goal. So now the urgency of achieving net zero is cannot be overstated. We all know that the temperature, our planet is warming up at an alarming rate, and that is causing many problems like rise in seawater level, then extreme weather condition, then food and water scarcity, and so many other things. So now we really have to attaining net zero situation is the only way to mitigate those situations. So now all the countries, they have come up with their ambitious goal, and in COP26 in 2021, India declared its goal that okay, the net zero will be attained by 2070. Now India's participation in this net zero process is a significant contribution to global climate action, kind of balancing its developmental needs with the environmental development. And so the target industries are like energy sector, transportation, building, agriculture, and yes, I mean, yeah. So in all these sectors, basically if you go and see, you'll find there are subtopics. Now it is not possible for us to discuss everything in this short session. So what we have done, we have actually picked up a few areas, like we were going to talk about the regenerative agriculture. We are going to talk about sustainable supply chain management. We are going to talk about hydrogen technology and storage. We'll talk about sustainability in plastic industries and the solar technologies. So we have with us Dr. Kamath, who is actually the director of regenerative agriculture. He is from Bayers, and we also have with us Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee, who is the supply chain and sustainability leader with IBM. We have with us Professor Subramaniam from IIT Hyderabad, who was our former dean and also was the gate chairman at one point. We also have Mr. Utsav, who is actually a mechanical engineer, graduated from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and currently working in the plastic recycling. And finally, we have also Mr. K. Srinivas, who is actually the founder and CEO of Solar Bull Energy. So the way we are going to conduct is that I will request all our panel members one by one to share their experience and perspective on the area in which they are currently working, in what way their activities are related to net zero, and then after that we'll have one, 2 or 3 rounds of more specific questions where I will ask questions, and also I'll open for the floor for the audience to ask questions. Okay, so with this, maybe I'll first I'll request Dr. Kamath. Dr. Kamath, you have 23 years of experience in regenerative agriculture. You have spearheaded many projects in Asia Pacific and in Asia. So I'll request you that, okay, if you can share your experiences, and I think you have a small presentation. So maybe once you do that one, then we can have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for having me here. And after lunch is a challenging task, right? I'm sure all of you would have eaten rice, right? So I'm going to talk about rice in bit more details. So before I go there, we all know agriculture, but also we don't know agriculture, right? So this is one industry which is very familiar, but also a bit of unfamiliar to us. And it used to be always blamed for one of the reasons for greenhouse gas emissions or environmental hazards. So how we can use agriculture as a solution is what I'm going to talk about here. So yeah, I'm coming from a company called Bayer. So Bayer is a global life science company. We have agriculture, pharma, and consumer health, but I represent the agriculture sector. And it's one of the old organizations. Even in India, it's around 128 years old. And our mission is health for all, hunger for none. It's a very, very powerful mission, and we are passionate about that. So when it comes to agriculture, I'm sure we have heard from few of the panelists, and we read a lot. There are 4 important mega trends which really drive the need for increased agriculture productivity, but at the same time, we need to have it in an enhanced sustainable manner, right? So we all know that the population is going to increase, so we are going to have another 2 billion people by 2050, and consumption of poultry and other meat products are increasing. And at the same time, because of environmental challenges, the yields are decreasing. So the harvest losses up to 17%, and land is being utilized for other purposes, not for cultivation. But at the same time, even lands are also degrading. So under all these things, we are also seeing a positive side of it in terms of overall technological upgrade with respect to the digital or innovations, which helps us to try to address these challenges. So agriculture is the center stage and can play an important role to really address some of these challenges. And for us, when we say regenerative agriculture, it's linked to the FAO ambitions of producing 50% more. And at the same time, we need to restore it. It is not just kind of very in a damaging way you produce or increase the productivity, but at the same time restore the soil health. But at the same time, we do have commitments like not only the internal, but we want to ensure our customers, that is farmers, are trying to reduce their emissions from their operations by at least 30% by 2030, and also reduce the reliance on harmful crop protection products or the pesticides by 30%, And also, as I said, rice, which is a water guzzler, right? So it requires huge quantity of water. How we can improve the rice productivity per drop of water is important thing. And last but not the least is in the world there are around 550 million smallholder farmers. They feed majority of mouths, right? But we are not concerned too much about them. How we can intentionally go about it and help them, especially low and middle income countries, especially in Asia, Africa, and some of the Latin American countries. That's our kind of overall sustainability targets. And I'm sure if you Google regenerative agriculture, you will get dozens of definitions, right? So I'm not telling them which is right or wrong, but they are from different perspectives. But since our customers are farmers, we need to see from farmers' point of view what resonates in their operations. So any practice change, any innovations we bring in should not lead to reduced yield. If there is a reduction in yield, whatever is the practice, it will not fly. End of the day, they should get higher return on investment, but at the same time, the other environmental impacts like how we can restore the soil health. Somebody was mentioning about biodiversity, right? Water, greenhouse gas emission reductions. These are the important ones. And for us, believe me, sustainability is a new and better way of doing business. So it is not kind of somewhere at the end you figure it out how to and what to put it in sustainability reports, right? But it's kind of starting from our discovery. So our strategy and sustainability teams are headed by one person so that any business strategies, any innovations, it should funnel through the lenses of sustainability and regenerative agriculture. So having said that, why agriculture, right? So we all know in Indian context, this is a very beautiful McKinsey report. I would encourage you to read it. So rice is one of the, agriculture is one of the important factors, around 18% it contributes to the GHG emissions in India. And rice and dairy are the important ones. Since we are dealing with agriculture, so I want to focus on rice. Why rice? Rice is life, right? I'm sure all of us eat rice, especially in this part of the country, at least 3 times a day, if not at least 2 times a day, right? But and it's being cultivated by millions of farmers. In India, 43 million hectares of rice is being cultivated. But is this rice cultivation in a scientific and sustainable manner? No, right? And some of those figures are really very, very kind of harsh realities for us. So rice emits 12% of anthropogenic methane emissions in the globe. And methane is 25 to 28% more potent than carbon dioxide. The greenhouse, the overall, the global warming potential of methane, I'm all sure you all know it, right? And at the same time, it's, as I said, it takes a lot of water, around 3,000 liters to produce 1 kilogram of rice. So 1 hectare rice can take up to 120,000 people taking showers, right? So that's the quantity of water it takes. So, and also the continuous puddling, it degrades the soil health. So it not only impacts the water, the soil and the rice crop, but also the following crop, because rice is cultivated in rotation with other crops like wheat in the north or maize in some parts or rice into rice. So how we can address this rice cultivation is going from a very, very water consuming and laborious process to more of mechanized dry direct seeded rice, which takes lesser water, lesser greenhouse gas emission reductions, but at the same time helping farmers to gain more incomes and yield. So this is the kind of big opportunity for us, and to really drive this, we need incentives to the farmers, right? So I'm sure all of you would have heard about carbon credits. So is it just in the PowerPoints? No, it is becoming reality in India. Right, so we have registered around 45,000 hectares end of 2023, and this year it's around 55,000 hectares, with around 25 to 30,000 farmers on boarded. The idea is change of practice, but at the same time, the kind of cherry on the pudding would be in case if we get them additional benefit of carbon credits. With all these net zero targets coming in, there are other industries, non-agriculture industries are ready to trade this. And this is one of the powerful tools what our farmers can offer, nature-based solutions, right, NBS. And this would be an additional benefit to the farmers. And we are in the process of getting the whole process certified. And somebody mentioned about greenwashing, right? So once these things becoming more and more, we should ensure the quality of carbon credits. So a lot of data points are needed. We are relying on partnerships, a lot of NGOs, and also there are other non-agri industries like Shell, Mitsubishi, Gen Zero, which is a Temasek company, are investing in this. So which is good for our Indian farmers. So at the same time, if we can help them to increase their productivity and income, so nothing like it. So to do this, as I again said earlier, we need sustainable intensification. So we have limitation of land. You can't increase the land footprint. So, and this picture clearly indicates the power of innovation, right? So it used to require around 2,000 square meters of land to produce 250 kilograms of corn, but now it is less than 150, 160. And even we need to shrink that, right? So innovations and technology and right hybrids, right varieties, which are climate resilient is key. At the same time, so we need to offer a basket of tools to the farmers so that they can pick and choose. So we can't say you use this, you don't use that. They are the wise customers in their profession, right? So even crop protection products are also needed. So we can't ban things, but at the same time, while bringing crop protection products, right, research need to go through so that it is having lesser and lesser environmental impacts, but at the same time helps farmers drive the productivity and income. And some of those numbers are self-explanatory there, right? So if you don't use crop protection products and only want to rely on organic, so it is possible, but practically it's not serving the purpose. So we need to have a balance so that we need to, end of the day, meet the requirements, but at the same time, try to manage the climate footprint and bring right innovations in the hands of the farmers. So since agriculture is a new subject and not very familiar, so I was a bit rushing through a few of those slides, but I would love to take your feedbacks and questions later in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kamath, for such an. Now I'd like to request Mr. Sandeep Chatterjee, who is currently the supply chain and sustainability leader working with IBM. Mr. Chatterjee, if you can share what are your perspective on sustainable supply chain and what are the key elements that differentiates it from the conventional supply chain and how it is related to the carbon footprint and net zero. Thank you.
Thank you so much again for having me. So again, we are a technology firm, but we also have a service line around supply chain sustainability. So I'm going to talk about both the things together. Let me just look at technology. So if you look at it, I think most of us have used ChatGPT. And the fact that it's fantastic, but have you ever wondered the carbon footprint of these kind of products? Typically, the data centers account for 4% of greenhouse gas emissions, which nobody is talking about. So what we have done is, most of the data centers, they remain idle 70% of the time. So we have used some intelligent technology to shut down the data centers when they are not being used. Then we are using recycled water to cool this down. The third aspect is about the hardware products. Again, you know the way they are designed, that maybe after 3 years, 4 years, they will not function. So we are looking at ways to use less of these materials when we construct the data centers, recycle some of these materials so that at least whatever we mine from the mining mines, that is actually under control. This is from a technology point of view. That the other point is every line of code has a carbon footprint. Now we have started declaring that if this is the piece of software, this is the, because it needs processing, and people underestimate that it uses a lot of computer resources. Now coming to supply chain, again, they are notorious because 70% of the greenhouse gas emissions are from supply chain. So that's why everybody is under a lot of pressure. And in the morning we heard scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. See, as an OEM, I will definitely work with partners. No company runs a supply chain on its own. We will have partners. That means we all have to come together to look at it. Some of the ways are, of course, EV. A lot of people say that get an EV, but it's a controversial thing because having more number of EVs may not be sustainable. We will have to look at the product design. That's the fundamental. Let's look at it. Let me start with Tata Motors, my first company. So 1998, I was part of the Indica project when Mr. Ratan Tata had made a statement that we will offer this car at 2.5 lakhs. All the cars before that were above 3 range. And we figured out that if we have to do everything from scratch, we cannot meet that 2.5 lakhs. So what we did, we imported the second-hand assembly line from Nissan Australia. Second-hand assembly line, refurbished it, and that's how Indica was rolled out. It may not have been a very successful car, but it changed the ecosystem. Everybody could aspire to have own a car. That was what it changed. So that was the way we had thought that let's do it this way. The second, we saw that cement is a huge emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. Now for cement companies, I worked with a cement company for about 1.5 years. The typical raw material is limestone. And mining companies are again notorious for greenhouse gas emissions. So as we mine more and more limestone, there are two things. We are emitting more resources, more gases. We are depleting limestone. So then what we thought it, let's look at fly ash, which is an output from power plants. It has no use. You will have to pay to somebody to get it cleared. That's the kind of thing. So we looked at our R&D cell and then we said that why don't we mix fly ash with limestone, and it has better binding properties. So it served two purposes. We were able to dispose of our fly ashes because we also had a captive power plant. Second is we were using less of limestone. The other thing is, of course, historically Lafarge bought the Tata Steel factory, and Tata Steel, the output of steel is slag, which is again a byproduct. It has no use. You cannot auction it. You will not get any money. So we started mixing slag with cement, and while we are using less limestone, if you look at it, cement companies are one of the most profitable today. It still is emitting a huge amount of greenhouse gas emissions, but these are the two things we actually changed. So it's very important that when you are looking at it, look at it from a product design. While in a supply chain, there will be, you will have a transporter, you can look at waterways, you can, but there is only a delta which you can look at it. If you can really attack on the product design, that is something, it's very important. The other aspect which I wanted, maybe this is my last example for now, if you look at fast fashion, again, notorious because, again, I'm not calling out a particular country, but UK has documented it. The kind of clothes which they have bought, it is enough for 6 generations. Because you buy a cloth, 3 months you use it, goes to landfill. So it's enough for, it's more than 6 generations can use it. So what the model which we are looking at is, let's have apparel as a service, apparel as a rented apparel. You take it from the company, use it, pay whatever, and once you are done, the company takes it there, because there is something called extended product responsibility, because the way you dispose your products, it's the OEM who is being made responsible. So these are some of the aspects which we are looking at. Maybe I will just take a pause here while others can share.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chatterjee. We'll take further questions after this round. Professor Shubh, you have worked on a variety of projects, starting from water treatment, developing low GWP molecules, carbon dioxide capture, and synthesis of value-added chemicals. And currently, you have diversified into hydrogen technology. What is so special about it? And how does it link to our agenda?
Yeah, it's a very good question. Probably he targeted me straight away. I think the simplest way to take this question is, since all of us are worried about carbon dioxide, it's so connected that our people feel that there is an opportunity in a specific sector by replacing the regular fuels with hydrogen. The reason why switching from carbon dioxide to hydrogen or taking care of several research activities is like the carbon dioxide, the way you can activate it, or if you want to really look at, all of us are worried for carbon dioxide. The simplest reason, it is so stable. It is so stable, if you really want to activate it, it's an energy intensive process. If you have to simply go by the laboratory experiments, carbon dioxide can be converted to a variety of products. But if you look at from the industry point of view, let it be TRL, more than 7, 8 kind of things, there are only a handful of products. It can be urea, or it can be some chemicals or something like this. But if you look at the grassroots problem, say for example in the transport sector, if there is a molecule or if there is a compound with which you can replace the fossil fuels, because like it was also said, scope 1 emissions, we know that how much of carbon dioxide is going to come. Scope 2, at least like there is a back-end calculation, I know that how much of carbon dioxide. But if you look at scope 3 also has, say for example, in every other than whatever is listed in scope 1, scope 2, all the other things are going to contribute to 70% of the carbon dioxide. One main problem with the carbon dioxide in the environment is like it is so diffuse. If you really want to look at one particular technology, say for example, the direct air capture, but the concentration from that point of view is not very high, because the 415 ppm, 2022, 423 ppm is what today we are worried about. But if somebody has to look at capturing carbon dioxide from the direct air, so it is going to be an energy intensive process. So that's when some of the sectors, there is a possibility of identifying a new molecule or a new energy sources. It's not that hydrogen for the first time we are trying to implement it, or this is not the, though for the past 10-15 days there is a tremendous momentum for this one. The main reason is that hydrogen, if somebody gives me hydrogen, so it is in a crude way, in a rough way, it is like 3 times of more energy density compared to the, gasoline or diesel, whatever you have it. So that means if there is a hydrogen which can be produced in a convincing way, then it's like you can replace part of the carbon dioxide emitters. One of the major sector is going to be the more, like I see every year you are launching so many cars into the public domain. That means that these diffuse emissions, whatever we have with carbon dioxide, in a way like the hydrogen has the simplest advantage. If you burn hydrogen, the primary source, it is said that in the universe, hydrogen has the largest quantity. The one molecule which is present in this universe in the highest amount is hydrogen. But unfortunately, hydrogen production as on today is mainly required for 2 molecules. One is urea, another one methanol. That's how the industrial hydrogen basically goes. But now that all of us are worried for the carbon dioxide presence or continuous increasing, now implementing hydrogen, especially for the transport sector or in some of the centralized power production or through fuel cell route, there is a way that we can achieve net zero. One of the approaches for achieving this one are to decrease the emissions of carbon dioxide is to use hydrogen as the transportation fuel. Not only for the transportation, I picked up this one, the reason that, okay, this has lot of energy density. If somebody gives me 1 kg of hydrogen, it is 3 times more energy, it has 3 times more energy than gasoline or like the diesel. But then the question comes like, okay, why not I take water and try to split it? Now, if you really want to look at something, all our auto sectors are mainly based on the IC engines or compression-based engines. So now if you really want to look at, we need to show that it's produced in a sustainable way. Then it should be stored, because you cannot use then and there. Then there should be a way to utilize it. So that means if something takes care of all these things, then we call it like hydrogen economy. So production as on today is limited mainly because we have to take the cleanest source. As on today, hydrogen production is not a difficult thing. But now the question is that from where you are producing. I'm producing from methane. Any source of the fossil fuel, it emits at least like 5 to 6 times more carbon dioxide than the hydrogen. I take two examples. One is methane. Methane, if you use methane for producing kg of hydrogen, you're automatically emitting 7 to 8 kg of carbon dioxide. Even if you come to, say, for example, the coal, it's even the worst scenario. So likewise, compared to the kg of hydrogen or molecule of hydrogen, what you produce carbon dioxide is much higher. Now someone has to look at green hydrogen in the sense like directly from water splitting through using renewable energy sources. That's when the bottleneck comes like readily available to me. I know that at one point of time, there was a misconception that solar energy, electricity production is not going to be energy efficient, or in the sense that it's going to be cost intensive. You'll have to shell out a lot of money. But now with the new innovations, I think the benchmark is like blue hydrogen, where you capture carbon dioxide. That's like $2.2 per kg. And if you take it closer to at least like 2.5, 2.6, this is definitely going to be reality. But we should not be waiting for somewhere it will come down at one point of time. The other aspects of it is like the production, storage, and utilization. All these three aspects are really required, at least like to take care of the one sector which is emitting carbon dioxide in a diffuse way. Just to make it in the last statement, so far we have been following something like a dilution is the solution for pollution. Because like you just emit it like from the silencer, something goes out, you can never bring it back. So these are like emissions which you cannot regulate it. But in a way, if you try to avoid it, okay, so that means by using hydrogen, it has energy, it is a highly, it doesn't burn. All of us have a misconception that hydrogen burns on its own. Hydrogen is even more sluggish compared to natural gas. But only thing is that, okay, it started, but the momentum should continue. I'm hopeful that it's going to continue. I'll wait for the others to talk, and I will take up any specific questions.
Thank you very much, Subbu. Now Utsav, you have worked as a consultant for technology strategy and implementation for
But now the question is that from where you are producing. I'm producing from methane. Any source of the fossil fuel, it emits at least like 5 to 6 times more carbon dioxide than the hydrogen. I take two examples. One is methane. Methane, if you use methane for producing kg of hydrogen, you're automatically emitting 7 to 8 kg of carbon dioxide. Even if you come to, say, for example, the coal, it's even the worst scenario. So likewise, compared to the kg of hydrogen or molecule of hydrogen, what you produce carbon dioxide is much higher. Now someone has to look at green hydrogen in the sense like directly from water splitting through using renewable energy sources. That's when the bottleneck comes like readily available to me. I know that at one point of time, there was a misconception that solar energy, electricity production is not going to be energy efficient, or in the sense that it's going to be cost intensive. You'll have to shell out a lot of money. But now with the new innovations, I think the benchmark is like blue hydrogen, where you capture carbon dioxide. That's like $2.2 per kg. And if you take it closer to at least like 2.5, 2.6, this is definitely going to be reality. But we should not be waiting for somewhere it will come down at one point of time. The other aspects of it is like the production, storage, and utilization. All these three aspects are really required, at least like to take care of the one sector which is emitting carbon dioxide in a diffuse way. Just to make it in the last statement, so far we have been following something like a dilution is the solution for pollution. Because like you just emit it like from the silencer, something goes out, you can never bring it back. So these are like emissions which you cannot regulate it. But in a way, if you try to avoid it, okay, so that means by using hydrogen, it has energy, it is a highly, it doesn't burn. All of us have a misconception that hydrogen burns on its own. Hydrogen is even more sluggish compared to natural gas. But only thing is that, okay, it started, but the momentum should continue. I'm hopeful that it's going to continue. I'll wait for the others to talk, and I will take up any specific questions.
Thank you very much, Subbu. Now Utsav, you have worked as a consultant for technology strategy and implementation for
So good afternoon. I have I have two goals here in answering this question. One is, of course, to explain how we contribute to circularity, and the second is to wake you guys up. This side of the room is asleep, and that side of the room is trying to stay awake. It's amazing, and the rest of you are on your phone. So please wake up. I know it's right after lunch, but you have the weekend ahead of you. And the joke in front of you is there's a person who makes plastics talking about sustainability, and that itself is an oxymoron. And then you have a person making batteries who's defending his company. This is the state of sustainability today. And then you put a glass bottle in front of me, made by my own customer. So when it comes to circularity, we do a few things, of course, and I'll get into the more academic side of things. But the most important thing in contributing to circularity lies in educating people around us on what the facts are versus what the myths are, right? And you know, we have university students here, and the first thing to do is to stop all education from Instagram. I think Suchet was here in the same seat saying there's a lot of garbage and BS out there. All of that is coming from social media. These are not real sites or real source of information, right? And the main thing I'd like you guys to take away from today, from a plastics perspective, is that, and this is our global campaign, it's plastics is fantastic, right? It really is. And in all applications, in single use, in multi-use, in reuse, in recycling, in all these things. Let's take the example of reused bottles, right? The glass bottles that are in front of you on these tables today. In the next 3 to 5 years, these reused glass bottles will be replaced by reused plastic bottles. Reused plastic bottles meaning heavier, redesigned, you know, bottles that you find outside, but that will be used in Horaka, where this will go through 25 cycles of washing and still have the same properties. That has much less water consumption, much less energy usage, CO2 emissions, and things like that. And this is started in Europe in hotels and things like that. It will be coming to India sometime next year. We're targeting Q1 with a customer I can't name. So these are the areas where I want you guys to realize how plastic is truly fantastic, and the stuff that you read on social media, you have to swipe left on, you know. Let's talk about, you know, someone was talking about life cycle analysis. Of course, we have bias, so we have a third-party company that has done a life cycle analysis of all the different packaging types, plastic versus glass versus metal versus paper. And there's this whole new paper thing that has come up, that paper is going to solve everything, right? And we did it for 1 liter bottles, we did it for food, 350 ml, we did it for milk, we did it for all the applications in all the regions. Spent a lot of money on something that might shoot ourselves in the foot. And we realized that glass uses the most amount of energy, it has the most amount of dangers. This same bottle that may be reused 25 times will probably break in one of those times, and then you know what happens for the rest of its life, right? Paper seems to be the closest, and plastic was first. So there's a reason why certain materials have won these ingenious Nobel Prizes way back, and the power of social media is doing a disservice to our education. So that's, you know, one way in which we contribute to circular economy is communicating the facts with a lot of studies. So I'd urge all of you to go to sustainability.alpla.com and look at all of these free resources that we publish to everyone, right? We do all the life cycle analyses are public. We're a private company, we have no reason to, but we do this for education. The second thing is now coming to the actual work that we do in sustainability. Of course, every project that we do falls under reduce, reuse, recycle, and replace, but not just for the purposes of the 4 Rs. We have significantly large investments in all these areas. So on the reduce side, not only do we lightweight packaging for our clients, but we have new business models in which we're operating to reduce CO2 emissions. So for example, we do this thing called as in-house plants, where let's say if you are a brand and you are manufacturing your product, we put our machines within your facility so that the transport, the 0.88 kg of CO2 emission that comes with every kilometer, that is greatly reduced. We've taken that same model once, that is called as in-house model. We've taken that one step forward into a new model called as integrated manufacturing, where under the same roof, on one side of the plant, we manufacture the liquid in consumer goods. So we make the toothpaste or shampoo or lotion or whatever that liquid is. Common warehouse, under the same roof, we make the packaging in a hole in the wall concept, and sometimes even integrated from one machine to the other. So here you have supply chain, greatly much better, because 5 to 6 weeks becomes 1 to 2, and then all your secondary packaging. So that comes under the reduce bucket. Reuse, I just mentioned it, but we've been quietly over the last 10-15 years finding the most optimal way to have slightly heavier plastics that can do 25 cycles, and then those can be lightweighted with recycled plastic, which are food grade. So that itself is an innovation in reuse, and we've rolled that out, and now people are using that for wine bottles as well, Europeans who are very particular about their wine. On the recycling side, of course, we do a lot. We're not just a packaging company, we are also a recycling company. We do 18 lines, and we manufacture our own recycled resin. And there we deploy very high quality technology, from washing and grinding and extrusion, all those activities to bring circularity back. We believe in bottle-to-bottle recycling. We have 18 of those lines. And then finally, replace is a very, very interesting area where a company like ours has said, you know what, there are some areas where we don't know, where we need to partner. And these areas are things like founding a company called as the Paper Bottle Company, where we are doing some work in fibers, where we realize, okay, you know what, we're not just into packaging. What if we combine paper and plastic in a very smart way using bio-based resources, so that all of this goes into paper recycling eventually, but still has the properties and the barrier properties of a PET or an HDPE. So this has been done with companies like Carlsberg, Absolute Vodka, and things like that. Very exciting stuff. We've also created our own bio-based plastic called as Panera, which is a blend of PHA and a few other compounds I can't really mention. This is both bio-based and biodegradable. We've used that material to launch an espresso coffee capsule, which is home compostable. Just like you throw out your banana peel, you can throw this, because right now it comes with aluminum Nespresso peels and they don't work out. So we're trying a bunch of things, but the central message is plastic is fantastic. We're doing a lot for circularity. And so please stop learning from Instagram and start reading from professors. Thank you. Just something to wake you guys up, yeah? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now I come to the last panelist, Mr. Srinivas. You have been you are currently the founder and CEO of Solar Bull Energy, right? And you are also the co-chair of Energy Committee of Federation for Telangana Chambers of Commerce and Industries, right? And you have 32 years of industrial experience, and out of that 14 years in renewable energy sector, right? So what is your take on, what is your opinion about the growth of solar installations in India? How has it changed over the last decade?
Right. Thank you. Very good afternoon to you. I run a company called Solar Bull Energy LLP. We are primarily into setting up solar power plants, rooftop and ground mount solar plants for industrial and commercial clients. Well, we set up solar plants for government as well as residential buildings, but majority of our 90% of our revenue comes from corporates, industries, and MSME as well as large industries. Solar has been growing at a very fantastic pace at all sectors. When you take about utility scales, power plants of large power plants of 100 megawatt and above, you talk about C&I sector between about 100 kilowatt to 10 megawatt size projects. You talk about the residential solar projects for a 3 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt residential. All sectors are growing at a very fantastic pace right now. Thanks to the Government of India initiatives and incentives in the initial part of the journey when we started about year 2008, the cost of solar power used to be in the range of first solar power plants auctioned were about generating about 17.5 rupees per unit of electricity. That was far higher than what was a conventional energy source. Today the solar power cost has come down to a level of about around 2 rupees to 2 rupee 50 paise per unit. Solar power, of course, has its limitations about intermittency, but solar power combined with the battery energy storage systems, which is picking up quite a good pace. Even with the battery energy storage system, the cost of power is around 3 rupee 50 paise, which is far lower than the conventional source of power. So the solar has a great future to go. And there are other forms of energy. In the morning, we had heard from Dr. Rambabu, pumped energy storage. There's another storage. But basically, the solar power is a sustainable source of power. Most of the corporates are looking for. We support the corporates in their sustainability journey and net zero journey in setting up of solar plants for them. We set upon their rooftops. We set upon their carports, car parking structures on their ground mount solar power plants. Some of the corporates have specific CSR initiatives to support rural villages in street lights. Some of the schools, they support schools and hospitals for solarizing. So we are part of all that journey in supporting the corporates to meet their CSR goals. Our company's particular differentiation is that we have a very good sound design engineering. Also, we take care of post-installation support for the corporates. That's a brief about what we do for the current topic.
Okay, thank you very much. I will again get back to you. Yes, Dr. Kamath, now I have one very specific question. That okay, you have talked about regenerative agriculture, and which part of our country you have seen that okay, which has responded well to this kind of agricultural practices?
Yeah, thank you. So maybe I did not call out that point. So for example, we are working with farmers who are cultivating rice, and we are already having working with around 11 states of India where rice is the major crop, and the idea is to kind of transform the way they routinely cultivate rice to more of sustainable way of cultivating rice, including Telangana, and help them to also improve. It's not just the practice change. As I said, the bottom line is P&L, right? So if we can address farmers' profit and loss, and at the same time we bring innovations to drive the regenerative agriculture practices, adoption is not a big deal. So I think we have seen that with around 55,000 hectares from 11 states of the country.
So what indicators shall we use to measure the success of this project?
Sure. So there are multiple indicators from regenerative agriculture point of view. We would focus more around the outcomes, and those outcomes are definitely without compromising on, as I said, the yield and economics, but at the same time quantifying some of these sustainable impact metrics. So we are working with International Rice Research Institute, who is helping us to quantify how much of greenhouse gases can be reduced. And some of them are methane and nitrous oxide. Both are very, very harmful gases compared to even carbon dioxide. And similarly, we are working with a bunch of even startups. There is a Bangalore-based startup called Cultivate. So they are kind of into more of measuring, actually quantifying water, how we can reduce and help farmers when to irrigate and when not to irrigate. right? So we are measuring those metrics using some of those with the help of some of the startups. And at the same time, other academics are involved in helping us generating those proof points, right? So end of the day, we need a data backup for any hypothesis or any project to succeed. And the initial, the indicators are very, very encouraging, and that shows in our adoption metrics.
Any challenges you are facing?
Definitely, the important one is scaling, right? And second important one is partnership. See, no one person can deal these transformational changes. It requires policies. For example, in northern states like Punjab and Haryana, government is giving subsidies to the farmers to change the practice, and working with the entire food value chain. So once you produce these products, agriculture products in a sustainable manner, so farmers would ask, what's in it for me, right? So we need to link it to the uptakers or the food value chain partners, the processors, exporters, so that farmers do get a premium price for their hard work, right? So carbon credit is one part of it, right? So that is not the solution. And at the same time, the overall innovation. So agriculture was, I would say, the one of the last set of industries which is getting, I would say, completely transformed with either data, IT, or systems biology, what we call, or even artificial intelligence, which helps farmers to take quick and decisive decisions. So these are some dependencies, and it requires a holistic approach. So, and then we have started seeing that. So young minds, younger generation is also open to take up farming. It's not just the only the old ones are in farming, right? That's a good indication. So I'm super hopeful that we are going to see a lot of important changes in agriculture, and not only food and feed, but at the same time addressing some of the challenges of sustainability and the net zero commitments.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Chatterjee, when we try to see what are the issues or the challenges in implementing a sustainable supply chain management, we see there are two words which frequently show up in the internet. Those are transparency and traceability. So what are those?
I think if I look at it, these are the two things which have been grappling supply chain professionals, because today no company runs a supply chain on its own, works with partners. That means I need to have trust on my partners. And second thing is, let's say we can talk about a lot of things like Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, but let's accept it. Supply chains are global in nature, because it makes economic sense to produce in a place where I have the least cost and sell at a place where I make the most money. So supply chains in general are global, and it's very easy to say that I have outsourced it. But the moment you outsource it, you lose control, because if something goes wrong with your supplier in Thailand, if you don't have an earlier warning, you cannot act upon it. So that's why traceability and transparency becomes very important. Supply chains will fail, that's fine, but thing is how soon you get up, that is where the thing is. So that's where companies are struggling, because as a consumer, they are more demanding. Because today you don't just interact with the sales department, you interact with the manufacturing, you interact with it because you want to know at what stage my material is. So that's why all this has to be traced really well and transparent in the sense that whatever my partner is doing, is it right or wrong? Because for example, what kind of material are they using? I cannot go and audit everything. Again, there's a trust factor, of course, there. But thanks to certain technology which are hopeful, again, technology cannot solve every problem. It's a mindset. For example, with the food FDA in US, we have actually built something on the blockchain technology where we have tried to arrest the food wastage, because we have enough food which is produced for the world, but so many people go hungry because there's an issue with the distribution and wastage. So that is one thing which we have tried to address. Second thing is, if you look at the coffee, so if something goes wrong, can you trace it back to the farm? Because at least, as I said, it's extended product responsibility. Like if something goes wrong, I should be able to trace it back. So that's where traceability, transparency become very important. That also increases your brand equity, because if you are very open about it, for example, something goes wrong, you go and tell the world that yes, we made a mistake, and the consumer will actually like it, because not like you're trying to hide it, because what Volkswagen did, I think that was not the right thing to do. So that's where I think these two things are very critical, both from an efficiency and also from a brand equity point of view. And blockchain is a possible solution, but having said that, it still consumes resources, but blockchain has come up in a new avatar. For example, the first time, 1998, when I was using the internet, it took me 30 minutes to send an email. Today, it takes me less than a second. Same thing when blockchain first came in. It was hugely, it consumed a lot of energy. Now it has come in a new avatar, but the problem is, because of the leakages on the cryptocurrency, people are not very confident about it, because crypto is something where people have lost a lot of money because of these leakages. So unless the technology is really robust, I think adoption will, but that's a promising technology, but costs have to come down, energy consumption has to come down.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chatterjee. Professor Subbu, what is your opinion about the cost trajectory of green hydrogen? When do you think it will become competitive?
Sure. I will take up from the previous last quote. Technology has to be robust, then only it will be more effective. I think if you look at last 10, 15 years, I think the considerable efforts and the success has been reported. It's also known in the open literature. At one point of time, okay, it used to be, I mean, green hydrogen, when we say it used to be around at least more than $6 per kg of it. Now I think there are claims that it has come down to roughly around $3.5 per kg. It's not let me clarify this point, it's not that hydrogen production alone is going to, take care of all the issues. Per se, even if the hydrogen is produced, just like, okay, so the sunlight is abundant, and taking clue from him that, okay, we can use it as a renewable source, and if you split water, that's not going to be sufficient, because like it was mentioned, we are not going to use at the point source. It has to be transported, and you also should have a technology to burn hydrogen. Argument's sake, okay, if hydrogen is plenty available, the second issue comes, like, believe that, okay, at one point it has come closer to $2.2, which is the benchmark, or $2. The next question is that how will you store it? I think here also there is no mature technology as of now. That means, like, unless you use it at the point source, which can happen only with oil industries where ammonia production can be integrated with hydrogen production. But that cannot be the point, that cannot be the solution for transport sector. If I want to use hydrogen as the transportation fuel, then it should be a next level of maturity has to come from the technology side. So the storage aspects of it is going to be another bottleneck. On top of it, okay, it's not easy to utilize hydrogen because it's so robust, in the sense stubborn. It doesn't want to burn easily, like. And we cannot use the same IC engine to burn 100%, like hydrogen. So though there are blends, but you cannot burn it. That means in the near future, I'm hopeful that with the initiatives from across the globe, from various governments across the globe, probably down the line 10 years, okay, so we may see a situation where green hydrogen makes break even. But the issue comes with respect to what you do with it. Is it like I'm ready to store it? No, as of now, it is a difficult task because hydrogen as a gas, impossible to store it to a mature level. Even take, for example, the type 5, type 6, the most matured gas cylinders cannot take more than 5-8% of the hydrogen. So the most of the weight comes with respect to the vessel. So hydrogen is the lightest gas, it escapes easily. So now the next issue is like, how will you make a material where hydrogen can be stored effectively? Then on top of it, how will you release hydrogen? Because I want hydrogen to come out, because I need to also look at something called power density. Just like to clarify it, with his permission, I'm taking this glass bottle. If you want to empty this one, probably it takes some time. But if I have 1 liter jug, if I want to empty that one, that's much easier. That's called power density. So like I think the battery people would have explained this one, you need to have the right mix of energy density and power density. Hydrogen has the high energy density as of now, but from the volume point of view, it's very inferior. Now I need to store it properly. If it is stored, then it has to be the worry about utilization. So I'm hopeful that it's going to come. If you ask me when, probably we both have to answer because we are the academicians. I think we are hopeful it is going to be. But the materials, last point from my side, for all these things, the main issue when it is going to come is like whenever we become self-sufficient. In most of the cases, we import and we integrate and we try to do. I agree that it's actually a global economy where like supply chain, there are no boundaries to it. But at the same point, I think there are one part of the globe versus rest other part of it, there is a huge financial implications in implementing it. These things cannot be equated or cannot be equalized at any point, but there has to be dependency in implementing it. Electrolyzers, materials have to be made at every place. If I want to make an electrolyzer, I have to have the raw material or the bill of material, whatever, so I need to make it. So for this, everyone has to be self-sufficient. Every country has to be self-sufficient, first of all. I'm sure that definitely we both are going to hear because we both have nearly 17 years of service. Okay, so definitely we are hopeful that it's going to come. It's a matter of time for the material development.
See, you mentioned about ammonia. I had one question, but maybe I'll ask later.
No, you can ask now also. No
The
problem.
time is short. Okay, maybe I'll ask after that. So, Utsav, your comments on bioplastics. I'm very much interested in that because I do work on that, but maybe at the TRL level 3. But you
Sure.
are actually-
So I think it's important to know it's not just bio. There's two kind of Venn diagrams that we need to think about, right? Or a Venn diagram with two circles. One is bio-based and one is biodegradable. And where we want to operate at in terms of large scale for commercial applications for day-to-day is to get plastics to a place where the day-to-day consumer is using at the intersection of those two Venn diagrams, which is ideally a bio-based material, but that is also biodegradable or compostable at worst case. So that's, first of all, what are we trying to solve for? We're trying to get to a material that has these as their baseline properties so that they are able to, go into any stream and then not pollute the environment, right? Because we have a lot of history of littering, right? And so when you throw things away along with your banana peel or whatever you have, then it will slowly become soil and things like that. That's the idea. Now getting there is a challenge because you can do, lab experiments, you can come up with certain PHAs and PLAs and whatever those different compound mixes are. And it's a great product is not 90% of the way there. It's 100% of the way there. And the effort that it takes to get to 90% is, 1x. But the effort to get from 90% to 100% is e to the x. Where to get it just right means those same set of compounds now have to work on large-scale injection molding machines. They have to work on large-scale blow molding machines. If they go into recycling, they have to be able to be going through those grinders, crushers, extruders, and come out with the same material properties. The same material, if you throw it into the landfill, it should become soil. That is the 90 to 100% that we are trying to solve for, that we don't have large-scale commercial solutions yet. How will it work for mechanical recycling? How will it work for large-scale moldability in flexibles and things like that? So I think today we have materials, not only us, there are a lot of other people. There's Braskem, Brazilian company, they're doing a great job. Some others, a lot of universities have come out with their own iterations of it. We have a material called as non-oiline, which is a PHA, PLA, and a few other compounds. It works well up until a certain point, but if I want to do, you know, 1,000,000 of those jars a day, that's where it has to start performing, and that is where we are at right now, 90 to 100. We're hopeful that we'll get there, but it will also not be the only solution to solve all of, you know, the issues that we have with circularity. You're going to still have glass. I'm not a glass hater, I'm just a plastic lover. I'd like to point that out. You will have glass in some applications, you will have paper in some applications, you will have virgin plastics in some applications, you'll have recycled plastic in some application mechanically, you'll have chemical recycled, and then you will have bio. You'll have the right material mix to ensure circularity. It can't be one magic material, for sure, at least in the short term. Long term, we'll have to see. So that's the current stance.
Thank you very much, Utsav. I have one question for Mr. Srinivash. How is India balancing the land use for solar farms with other needs such as agriculture and conservation?
Yeah, this question is becoming more prominent now with the volumes of solar increasing. However, with the solar efficiencies is improving, like it used to be of the order of about 12% about 10 years ago versus about 24% today. This will continue to increase. The land use requirement will get reduced with the efficiency improvement in solar. However, the requirement of land for the targets India has to become about from our current 200 gigawatt scale to about 1,000 gigawatt scale targets, the land requirement is pretty large. Still, only barren lands are being used. The one thing which is becoming more popular today is leasing of the land rather than selling of the lands, so that the conflicts at the farmer level are reduced. Most of the governments are declaring decent rates for the farmers so that the corporates or industries don't exploit farmers. Like Maharashtra government has recently announced 50,000 rupees per acre per year as a lease rental. That's a very decent return for a farmer for a barren land compared to the other agricultural use. Similarly, AP government has also announced yesterday 30,000 rupees per acre per year kind of a land usage. This is one way that the conflicts are getting reduced. However, the issue about land availability will become more pronounced in the future. As of now, the efficiency is the only solution. And the other solution is reducing conflict. There is no other solution that's being found. The other way it is being encouraged right now is agrivoltaics, where in the same place solar power plant is established. Between the rows of solar panels, you put agriculture by elevating the solar panels to a higher structure at about 8 feet height. You can do floriculture or horticulture at the ground level. That is also being encouraged right now. I mean, that's not picked up at a scale right now, but I think more and more as the land cost is increasing, and as a solar deployment is increasing, the agrivoltaics will increase, so that now the agriculture as well as solar generation can concurrently take place.
Thank you very much. So I open the floor for the audience. If you have any questions.
Bhutan, which has the net positive carbon emission, and in a country like India where we have the developing economy, so do you think that net zero carbon emission is possible by 2070?
Very difficult to say as of now whether by 2070 we are going to achieve net zero or not. But if you look at the trajectory we have, what we are following, so it's not that we are in one go, we are going to have this one by 2070. So there are several measures which are being practiced. By 2030, there is an immediate target, and it follows like that. I think every time to time, I think if you look at from our point of view, probably there are some countries, they have announced net zero by 2050, argument's sake, the advanced countries. But to precisely tell you whether it's going to be there or not, okay, so it is, we are all hopeful, because by looking at the last 15 years, at least like last 10 years, the concentration of carbon dioxide, the way it is increased, at the same point of time, the awareness which has come into the public. So we are hopeful, and we are on the right path, but probably there can be a plus or minus. I cannot say minus. I think it may be pushed by some more years. But I think there are immediate targets, like, okay, for that, the renewable energy deployment is something which has to be the next target. So that's what India has also promised or committed to it. So by 2030, we are going to have nearly 50% of our energy needs through renewable part. As of now, it is roughly around 20-21%, if I'm correct. I think we are on the right path, but it may be, but see, we cannot wait for that. Okay, so I think we started on a good note and we are following, our trajectory is good, and we are hopeful that it may be delayed by some time.
On the similar note, there was a target for reaching 100 gigawatt in India for solar. The target was to 2022. We are late by only 2 years. This year, about a few days back, we have crossed the 100 gigawatt level of solar. That's a very, though the target was very daunting to reach, when we put the target, India hardly had 10 gigawatt of solar. So with that, I think the government has the conviction and the capabilities to determine the policies, and the industry is ready to implement it. I'm sure, as you said, more or less, plus or minus few years, it should be possible to achieve.
Hi, good afternoon. Myself, Priya Joseph. Responsibility. Where should you actually trace it back? Because if you're talking about a plastic bottle where India has a lot of landmines that are filled with plastics, and that is yet to be recycled. And one of the probable reasons that companies do suggest is that we don't have the current infrastructure to support the same. So when you're talking about extended product responsibility, whom should you actually trace it back to? Is it the company that is distributing it? Is it the company that is manufacturing it? Or should it be a strategic alliance between both? Like, how from a business perspective can we look at it?
For generations, derived value from it and picked it up. If you throw a PET bottle on the road tomorrow, you won't find it because some rag picker knows that this has value and this feeds their family, so it will go into, a Banyan Nation recycling site probably 48 hours after that, after it goes through the right quality checks and things like that. But having said that, traceability is required in terms of EPR, right? So if you look at the legislation that's come out, there are things that a producer needs to do, an importer needs to do, and a brand owner needs to do. And the responsibility lies amongst all of them for the amount of product that they are putting out into the environment as a function of their initiatives. And they're all kind of interlinked. So each one of them plays a role. There are interesting recycling companies that have also developed IT chops to do blockchain-based traceability. There's a company in West of India who's done something like this to find ways to make this happen. More important, on top of traceability, another layer is ethical compliance, because, of course, you want to be able to trace things back, but more importantly, even if from the same landfill you're getting it from two different brands, what you want to be able to do is make sure that this was collected ethically. And so that seems to be one of the challenges. Blockchain is one solution, but you tell me, sir, what else are you doing in the traceability area?
Right now, it's actually mostly blockchain what we are doing is, but it's important that, for example, let's say a cell phone. Now the way you dispose it, it goes into the gray market. There is no traceability, and that's where it is lost. So if now no company can do it alone. As an economy, maybe there is another partner who is actually responsible for collecting the discarded phones. If all this can be traced back, I think we can still actually hold somebody accountable. But right now, a lot of things goes into the gray market, while we can put a lot of tech, but as I said, if there is no intent, if the mindset is still not there, it will not have. For example, I will just give you a classic example in Hyderabad. So you know Ameerpet, it has a huge gray market for education. Lot of companies have tried to break it. They have been very unsuccessful. So that's where the real challenge is.
So we started our session at 2:45, so I think it's already 4 o'clock, but maybe just one or two questions.
Yeah, sir. A lot of European countries are working on storing the solar power that is produced throughout the day that could be used throughout the day by the storage systems. So how close as a country, India, we are working on it? And the second question is, we have a big coastal region. Why aren't we not using tidal energy? as a renewable source of energy. Thank you, sir.
Encouraging solar in the initial years of 1998 to 2005 and all by giving subsidies. Similarly, for battery energy storage system, the first is the sales side of it, the market side of it, the opportunities for the industries to put battery energy storage system. The government is coming up with large size auctions where solar combined with battery energy storage system is offered as a package. There are some tenders where you can sell power only from a battery energy storage system with a constant power. So that's good number of auctions have taken place, and there are large number of auctions in the pipeline. That's so certainly is going to take place. Another form of storage of energies other than the battery, the pumped energy storage, which our Mr. Rambabu spoke in the morning from Greenco. So pumped energy storage also both in Telangana, Andhra Pradesh as well as Uttar Pradesh, a lot of states have come out with a large size auctions, which is about 5,000 megawatt, 10,000 megawatt size of auctions. So that's also going to address the issue of intermittency of solar. So both battery energy storage system as well as pumped energy storage system will have a lot of volume as well as the future expected. I hope I have addressed your issue.
Yeah, from the second question point of view, see, if you look at the renewable energies, so you need to identify the strategic locations where we can use it. Otherwise, if you see, more than 70% of the land is occupied by the water, so, but not every place can be utilized for these things. I'm sure you're aware that in the earlier days, wind used to be the most sought after renewable energy kind of a thing. Now solar has come, the very reason is that if the wind velocity increases by 2 times, the power extraction capacity increases by 8 times, because it is proportional to the cube of the velocity of the wind. Now to match it, okay, you need to also have the footprint for the solar part. But the geothermal, if you look at, okay, so this is another form of energy, which is vast energy is there in the earth crust. But unfortunately, not every place is accessible for utilizing it. There is something like ring of fire, okay, which is only the Pacific and the Asia and the South American coast in between. So coming to specific to your question, I think you need to just look at the capex versus say how much returns you will get it. If you try to look at all these farms, okay, so wind, okay, so tidal, if you try to normalize it, I think the energy per the unit, okay, so the energy extraction or production, the cost is going to be exorbitantly high. Locational point of is one part, and how much mature the technology is the second part of it. That's how this is in the backbench basically.
Thank you, sir.
My agriculture, regenerative agriculture. My question is based on my reading of social media article. I just want to check the correctness of the information. Is Indian rice not of export quality? Because this question why I asked you is I was in UK for a couple of years. Whenever I went to Pakistan is a small country, Thailand is a small country. We, India, the major contribution to our economy is from agriculture. Is that a myth or it's a fact?
No, it's not the right statement what you made. It's a wrong one. See, I'm sure you would have heard about the brand Tilda in UK information, but definitely yes, there is some rice goes from Thailand with they called jasmine rice because it's a particular brand type of variety of rice. Pakistan is also competing with us for basmati because Punjab, this side, that side is also prominent for basmati cultivation. But otherwise, we do export a lot of rice.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
We from the Mr. Kamath. I'm happy to see the agriculture the way because the backbone of any country or any human being. So just I want to know about, you spoke a lot about the farmer encouragement or farmer motivation. These all are which you are talking about as organic cultivation. Though it's not, what is the maybe the opinion about the academics, the people, the new students, how government is, because most of the students, they will go for IT sector, engineering sector, here, and maybe XYZ. But very rarely we heard about, we are in agriculture stream and we're studying with agriculture university. So how you feel that, because that's the backbone, upcoming is a youth generation. If today the farmer, maybe today the 40, 50 years old, maybe another 10, 15 years, we lost the farmers. But what about the pumping of new students, the new generation, where the government should be more focused on this area? So how you think about this area? Just I want to know about you, this Mr. Kamath.
Sure, right. So I'm sure you would have heard about a lot of even people who have settled in other countries coming back and practicing agriculture also. And there are a lot of universities, a lot of talent coming in, but the way of cultivating land or agriculture has changed. It's not gone are those days and bullock and you plow and so a lot of innovations are happening, right? So technologies are coming and agriculture is becoming a true profession, right? So and there are a lot of students, universities, and there are employment opportunities also in academics, industry, as well as even in agriculture per se. So I do see a bright future for agriculture. So and with a lot of mechanization and technological interventions, so agriculture is going to flourish.
Yeah, honestly, is my selfishness, I can say. The statement given by you is like pumping me tons of energy because my daughter is now in agriculture. So it maybe that's what one of the reason I'm very anxious to because she completed her biology. Then I encourage her in the agriculture field. So now is the ITM University. She's doing a third year now. So I got a lot of energy from you. Same I will transfer to my daughter. Thank you so much for all of you on this part.
Thank you very much. With that, we can conclude this session. We have already exceeded the time limit. If you have any further questions, you can take during the coffee session. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you. Thank Professor Subramaniam. Mr. Utsav Dixit. Mr. K. Srinivas.